Okay, we're going live. Okay, we're live. Okay, hello, welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is the football show. I'm joined by Gary Spain and Joe O'Neill from the United Stand. This is a test on new software, so bear with us for any sort of technical difficulties. But Joe, thanks for joining us, and I suppose we'll get straight into it. Raphael, here we go. Fabrizio Romano has basically said it's a done deal. Man United have announced that there's a deal in place now. How are you feeling about Varane signing for Man United as well as Sancho?
Yeah, this is genuinely like an unbelievable transfer window. It's one I kind of half expected because of all the protests that were going on and the fact that the Glazers wanted to show something to appease people so they'd start buying jerseys again. Still, in saying that, I didn't think we'd get someone top quality as Varane, and we're still looking like we're in the market for possibly. I don't think this will happen, but possibly indeed from Leicester. For me, that would be like beyond unbelievable, like an absolute dream come true for my United fans if we signed Varane and Sancho in one window, plus a world class hold midfielder, central defensive midfielder, and possibly a replacement right back too, just for so Wan-Bissaka can be rotated. But so far, I'm overjoyed, and what Varane brings to the team is not only his world class ability, but also just a winning mentality. You know, just someone who can, who's done it everywhere at international level and at club level at one of the biggest clubs in the world, and actually is going to be missed when he's leaving because they wanted to hold on to him. And the fact that he wanted to come to United, and it's not a case of we're just the highest bidder who can offer the most money. He actively wanted to come to Man United. Same with Sancho. I think it shows that Solskjaer is doing a really, really wonderful job and is setting up a great project that players of world class ability are wanting to be invested in. So I'm really, really thrilled by this, and I think every United fan should be. But I still think I would say don't buy the jerseys. This is for me anyway. Look, each of their own. Don't buy the jerseys. Keep the protests going because the Glazers are going to appease us this window and then still screw us over. They're absolutely shafting the women's team. As we know with the FAI shafting the women's team as well, they can easily be forgotten. But like they're still doing horrendous things behind the scenes. So don't let the flashy stuff. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath the water is a whole lot of mess going on. So don't forget about that.
Okay, well, that's that. Anyway, Gary, from your point of view, when you saw Varane was going to be announced, because you look at this guy and everything he's won. I mean, I think is it 3 Champions Leagues, a World Cup, in the last number of years.
4.
I mean, he is a serial winner.
4.
4 Champions Leagues, sorry, serial winner. And an absolutely world class defender. I mean, Man United have been calling for a player like this for a long time. I think they've had Lindelof, Bailly, all haven't really worked out. I'd say Maguire. I think people saw that Maguire can actually be a very top class defender in the Euros, and every time he seems to play for England, he gets rave reviews. But when he plays for Man United, maybe it's because he's playing with other players and he doesn't have the pace. He kind of gets found out. But what's your opinion on Varane, Gary?
Yeah, look, Joe said it. He's an absolutely top quality player. Four Champions Leagues, a World Cup, 3 La Liga titles, 4 Club World Cups. I mean, I actually sent out a tweet a couple of days ago because United Insider 10 years ago, United were very close to signing him from Lens, and they were pipped by Real Madrid. And he's proved to be every bit the talent Alex Ferguson recognised 10 years ago. I mean, one of the top defenders in the world. And they're getting him at a very good price. I mean, it's something like, is it 50 million euros when you break it down, something like that? I mean, Arsenal are paying that for Ben White. Now, with all due respects to Ben White, he's a promising English defender. Varane is one of the top defenders in the world. And Real Madrid did want to keep hold of him. And the problem was they signed, and this can happen to any club, they signed David Alaba on a free transfer. And because he was coming on a free transfer, he got a massive signing on fee, got massive wages. And Varane said, well, I'm one of the best in the world. I'm at least deserve equality, which he does. And Real Madrid couldn't afford it. And so it's a fantastic coup for United. As Joe said, they got Jadon Sancho already. I hadn't heard the Ndidi one. I think Kieran Trippier is still a possibility. I think he wants to move back to England. He would be an upgrade for United as well. And I even saw off the wall stuff that even Erling Haaland could possibly go to Man United. And I don't think they're possibly out of the Harry Kane one yet. And I think if the Glazers were to pull any of those off, it would definitely stop the protests. Now, I'm not a United fan, obviously, but I do have a lot of sympathy for Joe because, I mean, the big issue with the Glazers is they are taking a lot of money out of Manchester United. They are making money. They are making hundreds of millions of euro on Manchester United. And that's what the fans have a problem with. I mean, the money is going out of football and it's going over to the Glazers in the States. And because if you look at, I mean, in some ways, if you look at the way PSG, Manchester City, etc., Abramovich at Chelsea, and I know people have issues with them as well, but they are actually, in the case of Abu Dhabi or Qatar or Abramovich himself, they're actually putting money into the clubs. They're putting money into football. And it is a very different model. And the United fans are absolutely right to be concerned about the Glazers. Now, this still makes good business sense because I think the quality of this signing, Joe seems to be a big fan of Ole. I'm not so sure yet. And I think this will be a real test for him because he's got the players and he has to challenge City for the title. And City have been very quiet in this window. We can go on and talk about possible transfers there. But certainly, Joe and any other Man United fan has got to be delighted at getting Sancho, getting Varane, possibly getting Ndidi, possibly getting Trippier, and then the off-the-wall ones if they were to sign a top-quality striker. Probably a year too early to sign the striker, given Cavani is still so good, and he will certainly do a job. But I think United will need one of the best strikers in the world, if not this.
Yeah, there's a couple of comments just coming in there. Owen Conway says, United fans seem to think they're getting Varane from 2017. Don't think they've watched him in the last 2 to 3 years. Pat Roach says, Varane is a serious signing for United. Biggest United signing in a long time, statement signing. And half the price of Maguire. Indeed, he would be the cherry. And he says, Defo only needs results now after these signings. So, Joe, just, obviously, I've seen you on Twitter and stuff like that. And
I just want to
Go on. Go on.
I just want one of those comments on Varane in the past 2 years. Don't forget that he was playing alongside Sergio Ramos, who was on a serious decline, and who also wasn't playing week in, week out. So he was playing alongside a different defensive partner on a consistent basis. And if it wasn't that, like whoever it was going to be Ramos who wasn't at the top of his game. So I think it's unfair to say he's diminishing. I think he's still top quality and top rated, and for the fact that he's playing every single game for France when he's called upon and usually playing out of his skin, I think it's unfair to just judge him over the past 2 years because I think he is a top class defender who has just been sold short by Real Madrid.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think United are getting a top quality defender. He won the World Cup in 2017. He won the World Cup in 2018 with France. I think he played every game, every minute, I think, if I remember rightly. And played for France in the Euros. I know they went out in the end, probably tamely on penalties. But no, he's a top quality player. And he's, what is he, 28? Yeah, it's a fantastic signing for United. I don't know, maybe some Liverpool fans can come up with some negatives on it, but I think they've made a great signing.
Well, I look at it, the reason I think that United are getting him for cheaper than you would say, Van Dijk or Maguire or any of these types of players is because I think he's out of contract next year. Real Madrid need money. And I think with Ben White, it's the opposite. He's got lots of years on his contract. He's in England, he's going to be in England international. So I think that's why his price is inflated, and that's why Varane's is. But look, if I was a Man United fan, I wouldn't be complaining whatsoever. You're getting an absolutely world-class defender who's going to come in there and only help the team get better. But Joe, from your own point of view, as I was going to say there, just about Solskjaer, like, surely this season he needs to win something with those signings.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've defended him staunchly because I felt he's never really been backed. When I know we got backed with Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, but the rest of the team was just awful. So it's really hard. And where we improved with those two signings, but you can't, get a Ferrari immediately. It takes a while. Okay, Rome wasn't built in days, a better analogy than whatever I just said there. But like, it takes time. Do you know what I mean? Defense, I think now is solid. I think going forward we are very strong. I think Cavani is, of course, if he didn't sign a new contract, I think there is a possibility we could get Kane, we could get Haaland. I don't think those things are not going to happen, but I still think Cavani is top class for at least one more season. Plus with Greenwood and Rashford, who can play in that position as well, and with Ahmad as well. There's a lot of options there that can do us for this season going forward. I think we're still very strong there. And midfield as well, I think we've strengthened too. And I think we do need a hold midfielder. And hopefully we get it. I just heard the other day it was going to be Ndidi apparently, with Lingard going or Dan James going one way plus 40 million. Still, I think that's a bit too cheap. So I'm not putting everything on that. But the fact that we're in the market is huge. But this is the first time Ollie has been properly backed and will be properly backed. So I think this is it now. If we don't finish, I don't want to say necessarily with a trophy, but it kind of has to be whatever the next best thing after that. Like running City all the way to the last day of the season, maybe getting to a final, but actually, I don't know. I suppose you have to win it. I don't know. It depends how I feel at that time. But I really can't see anything past at least winning a trophy and running City to the last day of the season. Because I do think, I just don't think Chelsea are going to have the legs to go the full way this season. I think they were great at the last 6 months, but it'll be interesting seeing Tuchel have an entire season. I don't think Liverpool are going to do much this season. I know people are saying Van Dijk is back, but I just think he's coming back from an ACL. I don't think, and they haven't really signed anyone, that I just think they're not going to be the force. I really think it's going to be between United, City and Chelsea. I think Liverpool are, coming forth, I believe, anyway. But I think no matter what, this is really, I suppose there's no other way of saying it. This is make or break for Ollie. I think he's done fantastic so far, and he's built a really, really wonderful squad. So if he can't do it now, maybe he can never do it, but I still believe he can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he has to
on,
maybe not win a trophy, but at least compete for the title. Because United finished second, but they were miles behind City and never really challenged for the title, and that's happened before. So I think it has to be either really go deep in the Champions League or challenge for the Premier League, or both. Obviously, if he was to win one, it would cement him in greatness as a manager as well as a player, which he already has. But and that I think is buying him some time with the United fans. As I said, I'm not so sure, but I think this has to be the make or break year, no matter what else happens in the transfer market. I don't share Joe's optimism on Liverpool. I think they will try to be neutral on this. I think Liverpool will definitely be in the top four, and they could well mount more of a challenge this season. They were decimated by injuries at the back last season, and that definitely hurt them. They haven't signed anyone. They haven't really. They lost Giorgio Wijnaldum, but they haven't really lost anybody else either, or certainly any of their key players. So,
well, the reason I don't think they're going to be at the same force is because they were decimated at the back, but it's not like they were losing 2-0, 3-0 throughout the season. They were losing 1-0 and they were losing to the likes of Burnley and all these small teams, and they just weren't scoring goals. I think the problem is their attack line is past it. I still think obviously they'll come up with quality moments and they'll do great things, but I think there needs to be a reshuffle there. They really should have gone in and tried to buy someone to replace someone there. Maybe it could be Mane, it could be Firmino, but I think that's where the real problem is. I think they'll be defensively solid again. Van Dijk will come in. We'll see how he adjusts with the ACL, but I think the issue will be scoring goals because they just couldn't do it for 3 or 4 months last season, and they weren't conceding an abundance of goals. So I think the problem is that they haven't, because like Ferguson did every season, no matter what, he signed one player, at least one player to come in to freshen up the squad. And I know that, like you're saying about Koundé, but like I think the attack in 3 is where the problem will be next season. And Shaqiri's gone, but whatever that means to them. But I think the main problem is that they have an aging front 3 who were shooting blanks for pretty much the entirety of last season.
Okay, I think Salah still has quite a lot of quality in him. There's still quite a lot of goals, although there was rumours of him possibly departing as well. Now, that would be a total disaster for Liverpool. I think maybe just one of the things last season, Liverpool may have they'd been on such a high and had put such an effort in with the Champions League final, then winning the Champions League the next year, and then going on such a fantastic run in the Premier League. Maybe they just took the foot off the gas a bit, and it will be interesting to see how they bounce back. Now, I was talking about the Glazers taking money out. The Liverpool owners, they mightn't quite be the Glazers, but they are also taking their own profits as well out of Liverpool. And maybe it looks like they're not facing the protests that the United, that the Glazers are facing. But I wonder, will they, if they're not seen to invest in the team? Because one thing the Glazers have always done is they have invested in the team. Now, you could say it's protecting their investment because they're obviously making so much money and hand over fist, and they've also increased the value of Man United phenomenally. And I know it must stick in the craw of any United fan, even as a general football fan. It sticks in my craw to see how much money they're just taking out of football. And and they are going to, whatever happens, they're going to walk away with hundreds of million. But Liverpool, it will be an interesting season for them. And I mean, the big question is what's going to happen to City. I mean, City were so good last season without. They had Aguero, but he was out for quite a while. Jesus, they didn't really have a striker. I think Gundogan was their top goal scorer in the end. I mean, if you add in, and it does look like they're going to get Harry Kane once he comes back from holidays. I think it's very clear he wants to leave. He's had enough at Tottenham. I think he is the top striker in England. And I mean, Tottenham are just not. They might be a top 6 club, but they're not a title contender. And I think he had a verbal agreement from Daniel Levy, did it go, seems, and it looks like he's going to go. And it looks like, unless I think the Glazers could totally transform their standing with the United fans, but it looks like he's going to go to City. And it's just scary what you think could happen to City when you take the league champions and such a good side, and then plonk in the middle of that one of the top strikers in the world. And then I haven't even gone on to talk about the possibility that Jack Grealish could also be going to City. I know that's gone off the radar a bit, but he's on holiday as well after the Euros. He's due back shortly. Well, it's hardly breaking news now. It has been around for quite a while. I'm not going to claim to be the oracle on that one, but But if they were to get Jack Grealish as well, I know somebody the England fans felt didn't get enough of a fair chance in the Euros. He played quite a bit, but he was never a regular starter. And he has that X factor and that special talent that you don't see. And I know he's one that got away from an Irish perspective, but you don't see that. And for City to have him as well as Kane would just be absolutely phenomenal and scary as well. And the only hope, I think, for the chasing pack is the focus for City this year has got to be win the Champions League. And they may take their eye off the ball, particularly in the first half of the league season with that.
Yeah.
So
I'm really interested to see, because I do agree with you, Gary, that I think Harry Kane is gone. Gone to City. I mean, I'm not so sure on Grealish, just because that's gone kind of quiet recently. That maybe that mightn't go ahead, but I think the Harry Kane one is dead on. But I'm really interested to see how he would actually do at City, because at Spurs everything is tailored to him. Do you know what I mean? Every single thing is based around his ability, and he's obviously been there since he was a teenager. That he's just so ingrained in the club. But he's never really set the world on fire with England. You know, I know it's a different squad and not as good as City's, of course. But even at the 2018 World Cup, when he was top goal scorer, he didn't even get a team at the tournament. So I'm interested to see. I think there could be a bit of teething issues. Maybe just for a couple of weeks, couple of months. Maybe I'm more hoping so than anything else. Because Harry Kane, for me, is maybe not the best striker in the world, but is top 3 or top 4. So it'll only take a matter of time. And maybe that's me clutching at straws, and hopefully he'll struggle for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, which allows United to go to 14 points ahead, and then City will slowly creep up, and it might get the last day of the season. But I think it will be interesting, because it doesn't always work out as well as you'd imagine. I think for someone like Harry Kane, is still in the Premier League, he still knows what he's doing, and it should work out. But it'll be interesting to see if Guardiola will tailor to him, or if he'll have to tailor to Guardiola, because he hasn't really ever been the best in England. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic would work out. But obviously Guardiola obviously has a plan for him. If he wants, he's not just buying him because he's the best striker. He's buying him for a plan, for a reason. So let's just hope that City fall apart, because I was sitting lying on at a seafront yesterday, just having a great time, and I saw a 7-year-old kid wearing a Man City jersey, and nearly brought tears to my eyes. I hate the fact that they're growing, and I want it to stop if possible. So I'm hoping that it won't go as well as we hope. But that's
I don't know, Joe. I mean, he's already been a proven Premier League player, and I think that's the reason that City seem to be focused on Kane rather than Haaland. And I think he's more likely to hit the ground running with City than Haaland would be if he goes to Chelsea or even goes to United. And I think I can feel your pain, because particularly in Scandinavia, there's such a history of Man United supporters. It's but
if we're being usurped.
And I mean, City, you wouldn't normally actually hear too many City fans outside of Manchester 20 years ago, and now they've become very much a global club. And because was it 22 years ago, City were in the old third division, what's now called League One. So
great times. I think there's hope. I think there's hope for Cheltenham Town to win the 2040 Champions League maybe. But my thoughts on Kane as well, just to continue. Like, Guardiola has never been known to play with a recognised striker, recognised target man. Like, as soon as he came in, Aguero, obviously he did play a lot, but it was a fairly different role. Zlatan never worked for him though. Like, Zlatan was lasted a year at Barcelona. Yeah,
not even.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't. Yeah, and then like Eto'o wasn't really like, even if you look at the best front three he had at Barcelona was Messi, Villa, and what's his name, or who was on the other side?
Sanchez
for a little while. For a little while, but I'm trying to think.
Suarez was there. Was he at that point?
No, he came
after that.
Yeah.
Pedro,
but he's not ever playing with that sort of. Yeah, he was always a false nine, someone that would track and back and pick up the ball and make space and make runs. So it'll be interesting, the fact that is kind of Harry Kane. Okay, he will play deep at times, but he is pretty much like, he is up there, get on my head, get on my feet, and I'll score a goal. So City will have to change their play, which is something Guardiola isn't used to doing. He's used to playing his style of football. So I think that's why I'm kind of more hoping that there will be a few teething issues, because will Guardiola be up for changing? Obviously he wants his man, he's wanted him for a long time, but it could just be, as well as that, a marquee signing as well. So it'll be very interesting. I still think they'll win the league, unfortunately, but I can only hope and pray.
Well, just a couple of comments there that I didn't get a chance to read out because you were talking. So Eugene McGeever says, the thoughts on Everton and Hummels, the new third from every angle. I don't know if you've seen Everton's new jersey. It's beautiful, nice white jersey with the kind of blue and yellow design down the middle. Owen Conway says, so Varane will improve United apparently, but VVD, who's twice the player, will make no difference to Liverpool. I wonder who you support. Come on, the Hoop Celtic. Keith says the pool will struggle to get top 5. I agree. Hang on. Because the pool will struggle to get to top 5. I agree too. They need a new front line. And then Owen Conway, who came back in with a second comment for you, Joe. He says, you gonna ignore Jota was injured for 3 months last season. Jesus, this guy is biased. Keith says again.
Hold on. 1 second. When did Jota suddenly become the best player in the world? Like, you signed Jota from Wolves. He was playing fairly well, and then he got injured, and you're going to put it all on that. Okay, I want you to stop. I want you to stop your delusion and realize you're not the biggest club in the world, and you need to be restructured. Okay, Jota is a very good player. He's not exceptional. Do you know what I mean? I don't know where you're getting that from. You signed him about 2 months before he got injured. So if you're pinning your whole hopes on him, then you're in a more desperate affair than I thought you were in.
I have to say, Jota's a very good player now. I don't think he's
It's very good
just yet, but he's on that upward trajectory for sure. Keith says, Everton to finish top 6. Rafa will take points against the big teams anyway. We'll see about that. Keith says, Jota, what a player, a workhorse. 120 million for Kane to City. The Kun will be missed. I think he means Aguero. And then he says, wonder what would happen with Dele Alli. But just on to Spurs, because they signed Brian Gill from Sevilla. I don't know too much about him, but or was it? Sorry, I was just looking there on transfer market. He's Sevilla A-bar, but it looks like he's gone to Spurs for 22 million. So it looks like they're already making signings and probably preparing. I know Lamela left as well. What a terrible signing he was for them. He never really worked out, did he?
He was good for an old Rabona every so often.
Yeah, that's the same deal with. That's the same deal with Gill. I think that he's the replacement, and the 22 million is plus Lamela for Gill. So he hasn't come to my attention too much either. But he's a winger, and obviously Spurs believe there's talent, but I don't know. I can't see Spurs if they lose Kane, which it looks like they will. I can't see them challenging for top four. And the wait for a trophy. I mean, they won the League Cup in 2008 is the last trophy, and they just it's going to get to the stage where they won't even be talked about in the same breath as Man City, Man United, Liverpool, and Chelsea. The only good thing I would say for Spurs is Arsenal are also in a similar mess.
Clearly, misery loves company. But I think, I think that conversation is already over. Like, I think Spurs they had a glimpse of top six, and like they came third and never came second. But like they're historically over the past Premier League year anyway, they're like a top 10 club usually. You know, delusions of grandeur sort of thing. They're at the same level as West Ham, who've usurped them at the moment anyway. So I think once they lose Kane, like it won't be long after that they lose Son. Daniel Levy will get a nice 200 million in his back pocket for the two of them, and then he might invest, however amount in the club, because they wrecked it with Gareth Bale. They bought, remember, Soldado for 30 million, bought Lamela from that 90 million, a couple of other players, and you're like, he has now. The problem is when you sell a world class player, when you sell it for big money, every club in the world knows you have money. So you're kind of in a huge amount of trouble. So I'd say what they're trying to do is, I'd say the deal might run for ages. Like I'd say the Harry Kane deal might go till like the last day of the window, just because Spurs will want to go into negotiating for replacements with being like, we still have Kane, we're looking for this player to just, maybe take over next season, so we don't have the money. So I'd say they're trying to learn from those mistakes, and then Kane will go, probably, I think the 14th of August is the closing day of the window, but I'd say it'll probably be then, so they won't be completely spanked in the transfer market.
There's a couple of things there. First of all, Levy is probably, well, I was going to say one of the best negotiators, and he is. He's a really tough negotiator. Yeah. So I agree with Joe. It'll probably the negotiations will drag on. The other point to make is that the opening game of the season is Spurs, I think, at home to City. It's certainly Spurs v City anyway. And there is no way Kane is playing for Man City in that game. I don't think the Spurs fans could live with that. And part of the problem for Spurs, I went on to talk about, they've built a fantastic stadium, a state-of-the-art stadium. I can't wait to see it myself. I'd really love to go to a game there. And so in time, they probably will become major challengers. It may need a takeover or somebody, maybe Man City style owners or someone like that, or a billionaire, or I don't know if the Saudis want to take over the club again. There's somebody to really invest in them. You have a state-of-the-art stadium in London. It could be really attractive. But in the short term, if you go back a couple of years, Spurs were in the Champions League final. I think Joe said they never finished second. I think he's right. But they finished third in a two-horse race famously in 2016. They really are not taking anything away from Leicester, who were absolutely superb and deserved their title. But that's one definitely that got away, and I'm sure that sticks in the craw of Tottenham fans that that was a league that they could have won. And but they've probably gone a little bit backwards since then, and Kane would be a massive, massive loss. And I don't think they want to lose him, no matter what the money is. But I don't think they can hold on to him. And it depends on how much, I suppose, he pushes. And I think Levy may actually need Kane to push, because I don't think you can stay with the Spurs fans if you're actually seen to sell him. But Harry Kane has said he wants to go, but I don't think he's formally handed in a transfer request or anything like that. And the ultimate scenario would be that if he refused to train, no, I don't think he'd go that far. I don't know. But I mean, players have a lot more power these days, and sometimes clubs really have no choice but to sell them. And but it would be a major loss for Tottenham. Son has actually signed a new contract, which that has to be a major boost because, frankly, if you look at Tottenham last season, Son and Kane were absolutely world class and top quality players. But the further you move back through the side, they were pretty ordinary or pretty mediocre, and it's hard to see. No matter how good this guy Gill is, it's hard to see them challenging for even for top 4 this season. But you never know.
They're going way down, and like Harry Kane signed a contract 18 months ago. So I think Son signing one means that they can sell him for a bit more next season because Son has a career as well, and he might be a hero at Spurs. But if he sees, like, he looks over Harry Kane winning everything, and clubs are still be interested in him, I think he'd be like, I need to get out of here too. If they don't make serious investments and hiring Jose, and it's like to win trophies. Obviously, Jose is a scumbag. By the way, I just want to put that on record. And then selling him, then sacking him the week before a cup final, just because he would have got an extra bit of bonus if he'd won that. So I think that shows where the level of the club is. So I think once Kane, who I do think will go, and Son sees him win loads of trophies, I think there's even a possibility City might come in for his son to really kind of, especially if Harry Kane might have a shaky first season, just to really put it to Spurs. But I just don't. I think there's nothing but misery for Spurs going ahead. I think Nuno is a very good manager, but like you're going way down. You're going from Poch to Jose to Nuno. I think is just bad for everyone. You know.
Well, I think
I'd have to agree.
Go on.
I was just going to say, I think Jose is still a top manager. He didn't do it at Tottenham, but he is. But yeah, I think Nuno is pretty much a downgrade. Is fairness. I mean, Poch has obviously gone and done really well, and he has been. I don't know. I think Tottenham could have. I can't remember the circumstances that he was. I think they got rid of him a few months after a Champions League final. Yeah, wasn't it? Sacked him. Yeah. Yeah. So it hasn't worked out for them, and I don't see a good season ahead. But maybe Tottenham fans, you see things differently, and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just before we're going to move on to Celtic in a sec, but there's just a couple of comments there, because Gary, I know you want to talk about the SPFL starting back this week. Just a couple of comments. I think Pat Roach says shots fired, Joe, and then Come on to Hoop Celtic says good to see Darren in nets against Celtic the other day. That's obviously Darren Randolph. And then Owen Conway came back in with a bit more of a measured response to yourself. He says Liverpool were top of the table at Christmas when Jota got injured. Jota comes back into the team in March, and Liverpool won 8 out of 10 games to finish the season. Bad form coincided with no Jota. I agree Liverpool need to freshen up, but think you're forgetting how good they are, apart from a 2 to 3 month period last season when they'd no centre backs and had midfielders filling in. I think he means in centre back position. And then just Pat Roach says Liverpool's biggest mistake last year was not signing a big name, and they are on course for it this year. Winning teams always add big each year. They have to.
Yeah, that's what I agree. I completely agree with Pat's point. And the only thing I'll say on the Liverpool thing is, I'm not disregarding the fact you're missing centre backs, but you also can't disregard the fact that you weren't losing games 2 or 3-0. Do you know what I mean? Okay, Jota coming back in, if that's the turn up in form, fair enough. But I still think across the board, it's an aging squad. I think letting Jordan Henderson possibly go is a huge mistake. I don't think he's a quality. I don't think he should have won Player of the Year when he won it. I don't think he's a top quality central midfielder, but he is at the heart and soul of that squad. So I think letting him go could be a huge mistake. And I agree with Gary said earlier on. I think Salah is still a huge talent, but I think okay, fine, keep him, absolutely, but like you need to freshen up that front three. Jota, fine, but you need someone else as well. You need a top class centre forward, because you just weren't scoring goals. And that's kind of it. If Jota is your man, then absolutely, and I hope he fails miserably next season. But if you're holding your hopes on him, then get that whatever number he is, get him on the back of your jersey and see how it goes.
So anyway, on to Celtic. I just seen there while you were talking, I just quickly checked out Fabrizio Romano, and he's saying that Joe Hart could potentially be going to Celtic. That there's talks between Spurs and Celtic. I don't know if you saw the game last week in the Champions League where Barkas basically had a howler for who were they playing again? I can't even remember.
Midtjylland.
Yeah.
Oh, FC Midtjylland. Yeah, sorry. Just went completely out of my head there. But Celtic were doing well. Then Beaton gets sent off stupidly, and then the keeper made that mistake. And basically, it's 1-1. I think the return leg's either tonight or tomorrow. But I think it could actually work out well if Joe Hart was to go there. He could really get his career going again and be a big part of Celtic. And I think then obviously Celtic could do with a solid keeper. I appreciate he's not been solid in recent years, but that could be a good signing, I think. What do you think, Gary?
I think so. Okay.
Yeah, I think. I mean, Joe Hart was England's #1 goalkeeper, and he looked a really good goalkeeper. And I think Pep got rid of him because, he just wasn't. He's not a good goalkeeper with the ball at his feet. So the type of goalkeeper we're expecting Caoimhín Kelleher to be for Ireland, or Gavin Bazunu, or even if you take your Allisons and a lot of the top clubs in England now, the goalkeeper has got to be kind of the American terms, even the quarterback, but well able to pass the ball. That's not Joe Hart, but for the basic things as a goalkeeper, I think he is still a decent keeper. So I think he would be a good signing for Celtic once they're not expecting him to be passing the ball around like Alisson Becker or somebody like that. And a goalkeeper is hugely important for Celtic because they've struggled. Whoever was in goal last season, I think they had 3 different goalkeepers and none of them impressed. The Greek guy Barkas was meant to be the solution. I think he spent about 5 million on him. But as Paul, as you said, he was very poor for Midtjylland's equaliser. And that game is actually tonight. And I think that could have a huge bearing on Celtic's finances and spending power because, there's still a couple more rounds to go to get into the Champions League. But to at least progress and the money that's made, and it's just so important, particularly in a league like Scotland where they don't have the riches of the English Premier League. So I imagine, I don't know what Joe Hart is on, but I imagine Joe Hart's wages would be make a significant dent in Celtic's budget. But I think they certainly need a decent goalkeeper. And I know from an Irish perspective, people gave Shane Duffy a hard time last season, but it can't have been easy for him as well. When you're playing as a centre half, if you don't have trust and confidence in your goalkeeper, you do tend to make a lot more errors. You do tend to make mistakes. And so I think Joe Hart to be an excellent signing for Celtic. If you look at Rangers, they have Alan McGregor in goal, top quality keeper, maybe getting on a bit in years at this stage, but they won the league last season based on a top quality goalkeeper and a very solid defence. And Celtic were anything but, actually quite the opposite. And so they do need somebody like Joe Hart, and Fabrizio Romano rarely seems to get it wrong. So when he predicts something, it sounds like it's going to be a done deal. But even if Celtic do get Joe Hart, they have a long way to go to catch up with Rangers. And there does seem to be other problems. The signings haven't exactly impressed, and pre-season does seem to be pretty poor. Losing 6-2 at home to West Ham, it was only a friendly, but these things they don't look good. And there's been the new manager, the Australian guy Ange Postecoglou. He's a bit of an unknown, I think, this side of the world. I know he's been, whatever. Yeah, you can maybe pronounce it better than me. But it's going to be a tough baptism of fire for him. And Celtic, not to mind in Denmark tonight, they're away to Hearts at the weekend. And it's always a tricky game and a difficult game for Celtic to go to Tynecastle, first game of the season. And potentially you could be talking about a club in crisis if tonight and the weekend even starts to go wrong, because the fans could well be up in arms after a few weeks. Particularly, I mean, Rangers beat Real Madrid last weekend, and they won the league by, what is it, 20, 21 points.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, maybe the Celtic fans have a different view, but it doesn't look good for Celtic at the moment.
Well, I just
did Varane play in that Real Madrid game? Because that
Joe, just one second. There's a slight delay on this.
Sorry, go
ahead. Just on Celtic, like watching them against Midtjylland last week, that was the best I've seen Celtic play in a long, long time. And I think the players are starting to buy into what the manager wants. Beaton stupidly gets sent off, put Celtic under the cosh. But once it went equal again, Celtic were right in it. I think if they can get stuff right, now they're probably going in with a couple of inexperienced centre-backs like they finished the game with into this game, which might be dodgy because they're going away from home. But I do think that Celtic will be much better than they were last season. So Joe, fire away, mate. Sorry about that.
No, you're grand. I think on the Joe Hart signing, first of all, I think it'd be a fantastic signing if they got him. Like, I think his ability is gone for, I think, one thing, obviously playing with the ball at his feet, but he couldn't do it at West Ham and he couldn't do it at Burnley. And obviously, I don't think he was ever brought to Spurs to take Hugo Ree's place. But I think his mind went a bit. And that's the same, I think, with Casillas as well. When you just lose that confidence after him making like really big mistakes at really important times, I think it's really hard for goalkeepers to come back from that, because it's hard to play yourself back into form because you're almost looking for the next mistake. Well, a striker can score a goal and then suddenly everything is fine. So I think the standard obviously in the Scottish League is a lot lower than the Premier League. And I think that if Celtic get him, it could be a really big coup. And like, he played over 80 times for England, was number one for so long, won basically everything in the game outside of the Champions League. So I think bringing that confidence in and bringing that winning mentality of like a higher level, I think will be huge for the Celtic players as well. But they need to get players around it. And then I didn't even think about this when Gary said it, but like, I don't know how they're going to afford it, because he's definitely on around 100 grand a week. Do you know what I mean? Like, definitely. As being like a Premier League top class, at one point top class Premier League player, he's only going to go down to about that point. I don't think Celtic definitely can't afford 100 grand a week at all. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think that'll be interesting to see how they sort that out, because will it be a case of buying Joe Hart and then no one else? Or is it a case of he's taking a massive wage cut because he just wants to play football for the final few years of his career, which I think could be more likely. But they need serious investments if they're going to cut, because Rangers are on great form. I didn't actually realise they beat Real Madrid last week, but they're coming into the season with great form, obviously after romping the league last season. Like, I think we're all hoping if Rangers were going to win the league, it would just be, cutthroat last day of the season sort of thing. But the run riot, like at Celtic have done so many years beforehand, I think it's a good omen. So, and I don't know much about the manager. I'm going to let you pronounce his name again, Paul.
Ange Postecoglou.
Thank you. But it screams of Ronnie Dyla. Do you know what I mean? Like, you replace Brendan Rodgers. Like, the huge thing is you always go forward and try to build on, or at least get someone of equal quality. But to go from Brendan Rodgers to Neil Lennon, I love Neil Lennon. I hold nothing against him, but he's not the quality manager of Brendan Rodgers. And then for me, you're going further back again, it's not like when Rangers weren't a threat and you can bring in any manager and you still win the league. Do you know? You don't really have to invest. So I think I realize they don't have the money, but like, they need to find it from somewhere. And I do think the managerial appointment was a mistake. Starting with Neil Lennon, like, you have to try keep going forward, not competing with Rangers by getting someone worse, So I think there's a lot of problems, which I didn't expect to happen 2 or 3 years ago. I thought this is going to be basically the dubs for GEA, where it'll just be 15 in a row, and then people trying to sort themselves out. But Celtic have played themselves into huge issues. Getting Joe Hart, I think, would be a good start. Obviously, it'll build confidence and to have a good goalkeeper in the nets, especially in the Scottish League. But I still think there's, like Gary was saying, there's a long way to go. And progression in the Champions League, or at least Europa League, is a must every season if they want to compete.
Yeah, 100%. I can't argue with that. But I think we'll leave it at that in terms of our football show. If you want to get involved, drop us some messages in the comments and let us know your thoughts. And huge thanks to Joe and Gary as well. You can follow them. You obviously saw the social media handles come up when they were speaking there, so you can go over and follow them. And thanks for watching, and we'll speak to you all soon. Take care of yourselves.